Let's just try the brakes. Perfect, no noises, no squeaks, no rumbling or anything like that, no juddering. And the handbrakes are working as well, which is always a bonus. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and to this video. We're at the car pitch today. What has been going on? What have we bought? Well, we have bought and brought back this, the Ford Ka. Now, a little oval-shaped Mark 1 Ford Ka that we picked up from the auction a few weeks ago. You may have seen it recently in a video. Bought it as a pack of 4, and to be honest with you, it wasn't really my sort of usual stock we'd buy, but with 19,000 miles on and costing, well, £475 out the door with the fees, it just had to be bought. So anyway, the car has been brought back here. I've driven it back to the yard. It's now here in its raw form, so we'll have a quick walk around it and go for a drive in it, have a bit of a chat about the Ford Ka, what we're going to need to do to repair it, and is there any money in this old Ka? Well, let's find out. Let's go have a look at this Ka first and go for a drive. Today's video is sponsored by Vehicle Score. Vehicle Score is a vehicle checking service which is completely free to use. Simply go to vehiclescore.co.uk and type in a registration number. By doing that, you will get a score, a bit like a credit score, from 1 to 999. Using Vehicle Score's algorithm, it can break down the MOT history, the mileage, and using that information will give you an independent score to that vehicle. You can compare that score to the average car in their database to give you extra information to make an informed decision when buying a car. The free check also gives you lots of free information about that particular vehicle. It'll also give you information on the MOT history, the mileage history. It'll give you information of the vehicle itself and all its spec. It'll give you a free valuation, and it'll also give you an estimated lifespan of the vehicle. And if you want more, guys, they offer it because they also have 2 comprehensive reports. They have the salvage report and the ultimate report. Now, the salvage report will check to see if your car has ever been scrapped, whether it's ever been stolen, whether it's ever been used as a taxi, whether it's been imported or exported. But also, crucially, it will do a salvage check to make sure the car has never been involved in a salvage auction. What I mean by that, guys, you get a lot of cars that get damaged, don't go through the insurance company and become what's called unrecorded write-offs, or category U we call them in the trade. Basically, they go into salvage auctions, no registered mark against them against an insurance company, damaged, they get bought, repaired, and they can be put back on the road. So it's always crucial to make sure you have a salvage check done. But if you want more, you can get the ultimate report. The ultimate report covers everything in the salvage report, plus it will also make sure the car's never had any mileage clocking issues, VIN number problems, plate changes, Experian finance check. That is an absolute crucial one, guys. It's making sure the car is free of finance. It checks to make sure there's no outstanding hire purchase or logbook loans or anything like that. But it also covers a standard insurance write-off check to make sure the car, in case it has been categorized, you can find out. So make sure it's not a Cat N or a Cat S. Both reports offer fantastic value. Car UK viewers get a 15% discount by using the promo code CARUK15. Type in CARUK15 to get your 15% off either of those 2 checks. Remember, guys, the basic check is completely free. Get yourself over to vehiclescore.co.uk, type your registration number in now and get started. Right, here it is, guys, the Ford Ka, the 1.3 petrol. Well, that's all you could have, the 1.3 petrol, because that's all they came with from 1996 to 2008. They did do a sport Ka, or was it a street Ka? Did have a 1.6 with the kit on it, and of course the convertible version, but we're not interested in them today. This is the one that everyone remembers. This is the one that someone's either owned, or a relative, or a mum, or a dad, or a brother or a sister or an auntie has had a Ford Ka. It's an iconic car of the sort of 90s and early 2000s. Like I said, ran from 1996 up until 2008. Now, our one we paid £475 for. So we bought it from auction from Aston Barclay Prees, and that includes all the fees. So it was about just under £400, and put some fees on top, made it £475 out the door. Now, the headline to this one, it is done 19,000 miles, and I have driven it already. Obviously, I've driven it back to the car pitch where we are today. Now, condition-wise, it does want some work. Unfortunately, it doesn't show really on the body at the moment that it's done only 19,000 miles. We do need to do a little bit more to it to get better order, should we say, or at least get into presentable condition. So a quick walk around it. So first of all, off the bat, we've got some marks here on the bumper. These are textured bumpers. They obviously came in black as this is a standard model. They did do colour-coded versions. A lot of them were colour-coded, but obviously the base models came in black. Now, in an ideal world, you want to sort that out, but in reality, it's quite a big ask to get that sorted because it's a textured bumper. We're not going to go down the lines of sort of obviously painting that. We're just going to accept the fact that it is what it is. But we are going to probably look to restore these bumpers a little bit, i.e. the colour. So by usually basically just use a heat gun. If you bring a heat gun on them, you can usually get them back to black, and then usually just use some sort of chemical treatment on them just to get them nice and shiny again. Well, certainly we'll do that. Tyre wise, not too bad. It's got a half decent tyre on, about 4mm, a Kuma. Wheel trim's still there, original, which is good. It's nice to see. Moving on down the side, it's a bit dirty. It is covered in shit everywhere, so it could do with a bloody good wash. It's had a Schultz line put on it at the sill, moving up into the quarter, as you can see there. So it may have had some work underneath. We'd have to check that out. They aren't uncommon to basically having welding done. In fact, I can see a plate there actually, so it probably could do with re-Schultz. And again, I think it wants re-Schultz on the opposite side to make it look a level car again. And we certainly need to tackle the underneath. We did stuff with corrosions, a lot of these, so we would need to really tackle that, get it sort of unsealed underneath to make sure it's tidy it up and give it a best chance against the elements in this country, the weather and the salt on the roads. Panel wise on the wing and the door, it's not too bad actually. We've got a little bit of a chip mark here on the door which wants touching in. This car's going to be going to paint anyway, so I'll just get the man there just to touch that in, just to take your eye off it. This quarter for some reason is covered in little scratches, which is really odd. It was all the way up the quarter. Now I have had a go with some compounding paste at the top here, and it has seems to have brought it back and sort of got rid of most of the scratches. So we're going to have to just see, tackling that, we're going to have to get the car all mopped, which I'll explain more in a minute. So we'll see what it's like when it comes back from being mopped and see what sort of state it's in. But first signs of it, from what I've done here, is sort of a test patch. It has come up pretty well, so I'm hoping that we can probably rectify that quarter with a little bit of just a bit of elbow grease. Again, rear bumper nice and grey, which should be a more black colour, so we definitely need to address that, get a heat gun on it, and just get it some colour back into it. Looks like it's had a recent new exhaust. Back tyre, you can see from here, it's got about good one, that about 6mm on it, a Kleber, which I've never heard of. Doesn't sound a particularly expiring tyre. Sadly, the badge on the back has faded away, typical Ford. Tailgate's not too shabby. We've got a very, very slight bit going around just a start really of a little bit of rust around the rear wiper, but you know, what can you do about that? Not a lot really. It is nearly 20 years old. Quick look at the boot. Partial shelves here, which is always a good sign. They always go missing. Quite straight inside, very solid. Lift this carpet up. Have we got any nasties? Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Usually these are all scabby and horrible. That just goes to show there's your 19,000 miles. It's in pretty good shape, that. You still see all the paint nice and bright. All the seams are still there. Toe and eye cover's still there as well. Jack's still here. Oh yes, beautiful. Right, moving on to the quarter. This is where the problems lie. You see, we've got a problem with this quarter, but it's been previously damaged. So we should have a line mark there. It's been filled previously, painted really badly, and it's just all starting to come back through. Now I have popped my head underneath already just to make sure what it's like, because they do suffer with rot, these. And on the fuel cap side of it, where they usually go around here on the fuel cap, it's actually all right, this one. And this is all pretty, looks original, so it's never been painted. You can usually tell around this seam here they've been painted, because you usually see sort of uneven filler where someone's sort of cocked it up. But luckily this hasn't been done. It wants a bit of a clean out in that cap, but there is no rot, and there isn't any rot on the inside. But like I said, it's had an isolated paint issue with this bottom quarter here. I imagine from the sort of little scuff marks you can see on the bumper that it's been caught and probably put a big ding in here, and someone's just made a sort of bodge repair of it. And that's the main thing we need to tackle really. We need to get that repaired. But the issue is it's a red car, and red cars fade, and to get them matched up when you're putting fresh paint on is a bit of a nightmare. The car's going to need to be mopped all over to give it any chance of it sort of looking level again. I'm not too worried about my paint man actually doing the paintwork and getting it right. I'm no issue with that at all, but it's just whether or not the paint's going to match up with what's on the car. All we can do is get it painted and see what it comes back like, and then just basically price reflect it. We've got another Kuma tyre on the back here, again 6-7mm, so that's in good shape, another good tyre. We definitely need to redo the Schultz line at the bottom here. It's been probably had some maybe work down that side of the sill, I don't know. I would imagine it probably has with that being there, but we can do the same as the opposite side, so basically put a line in and come down to the sill, redo it all. I'm going to re-Schultz the entire underneath of the car anyway, make sure it's all solid underneath and give it the best chance going forward. Want to clean this car, don't it? Tyre on the front,
Looks a bit shabby, but actually not horrendous. It's probably about 3 mil. A little bit perished actually, to be fair, so it probably will want a tyre on it. To be honest, how little it costs, it's not really going to be much of a break of the budget, that one, is it? Trim's a little bit scuffed. If I could get hold of a nice set of new trims for it, I probably will, but we'll address that last. That's probably the least of our problems at the moment. We've still got the sticker on from the auction, which is not come off very well. I'll have to get that off in a minute. And that's pretty much it really, guys. It's a Ford Ka, what can you say? Now, obviously it's not in mint condition, never said it was, but it's done 19,000 miles, so it's got potential, but it's just got to reflect the price when it's ready and what it looks like when we've done it. Like I said, there's a few marks on it, like even being picky, like little bits here, want touching in. It's just one of those cars where you roll the dice on it and see what it comes back like from paint and see what you can try and do to improve it. I think we can make this into a car that's looking a little bit tired for its mileage into a real presentable car. It's never going to be mint, and not saying it's ever going to be mint. We can't make it mint, to be honest with you, without, well, blowing the budget, which would be pointless. But we can just spend a few £100s on it, and I think we can make it a really decent car for someone. And with 19,000 miles on, it's certainly a car that's going to last the test of time, going to get a fair few years out of it. Now it's looking a bit shabby inside, we'll definitely want to valet. The seat here is a bit dirty, wants a bit of the old carpet shampoo on it, get them seats back a nice looking blue again. Obviously the carpets want doing, he wants a set of mats in it. Plastics and the material on the door, actually quite good. Goes to show the mileage there, usually these are all sort of frayed. Plastics are in good order. The good thing about these Kas of this era, these Mark 1s, the interior actually of them, their plastics are quite good. They use really hard wearing plastics and it just shows. I mean, they stand the test of time. I mean, even ones I've had with 100,000 miles on have been in pretty decent shape really for, you know, the age and mileage of the car. They don't wear too bad. No mod cons in here, guys. So the seats want a bit of a clean in the back. No headrest or anything like that. It's just a basic car. Inside, she's Bobby Basic. We've got no aux leads. You've got no connectivity Bluetooth. I don't think you've even got, well, you definitely ain't got DAB. You've got an AM and FM. That's your lot. And if you've got any old tapes, you can put tape in. You've got a tape deck there. Brilliant. No CD player. Like I said, no mod cons. We've got wind-me-down windows. No lecky windows on this model, being a base model. It's a 5-speed manual, 1.3 petrol. You've got ABS, you've got an airbag, you've got power steering. That is your lot on this year. And if you got an earlier one, they didn't even have that. Right. 19,000 miles, 174. We've got a little bit of petrol in it, which is always a good sign. I always like a bit of petrol in a car. Fires straight into life. Sounds pretty well, to be fair. Very revvy and peppy. Very roomy cabin for a small car. I mean, I'm not a massively tall person, don't get me wrong, but I'm about 5'10", and I fit in it perfectly fine. I mean, legs aren't hitting anything like that. They are quite a spacious thing. I mean, they're cramped in the back, I have to admit, but for a small car, I've certainly been in cars of this era a lot more smaller and tighter, and sort of your elbows are in the doors, etc. You don't really have that in the Ka. It was sort of a well-designed car. Let's have a look under the bonnet. Bonnet, right. Under there you've got a 1.3 Duratec engine, starting from around late 2002, early 2003. They put this engine in. Throughout its life, from 96 to 2008, when the Ford Ka ran, it only had the one option, which is this 1.3 engine. The early engines were over at Valve. I think they were called Endura engines, if I remember rightly. They were same things you used to get in the Fiestas of the day. I think it's the previous Mark, was it Mark 4, 3 and 4 Fiestas used to have those 1.1s and 1.3 Endura type engines. Overhead valve, really noisy, tappety, with old-fashioned overhead valve of followers and push rod engines we used to call them. But they were a bit noisy and unrefined. Although very reliable, has to be said. Later on, they sort of updated the engine to this one, which is the Duratec engine. It's a bit more modern, a lot more quiet, and obviously a massive improvement on the previous unit. And again, very reliable engine. But it was only ever really made for this Ford Ka. They did do a 1.6 version in what was called the, is it called the Street Ka, if I remember rightly? They did a convertible and a sort of 3-door version of this with all a bit of a kit on it. They only had 1.6 litre petrol engines in, but they're quite rare things. Most people remember the Ka with just the 1.3 in. So this one looks in pretty good shape. I've driven it already, so I know it runs quite well. Someone's got a bit mad with the old white grease and thrown it everywhere, but at least it shows it's been loved, I suppose. But yeah, Not a bad little engine in fairness to it, and I'm glad they kept it sort of simple, standardised it to be fair, sort of messed around with different engine choices. That was it. You got a 5-speed manual and you got a 1.3 engine, that was it. If you either take it or leave it type thing. Like I said, it's not a mint car by any means, but it's pretty okay order, and certainly, I believe, can make a car. But let's go for a drive in it and have a bit more of a talk about this KA, what we're going to do with it, what I think the numbers might be. Also, what are the things you need to look out for when buying an old Ford KA like this. Oh. Right, fire into life. Never in doubt. Nice to have one with power steering. I remember the early ones and they didn't have power steering, sort of the P-Reg ones when they first come out. When I first started in the game, what maybe at 2005 I'd have been, how long have I been then? 18? 17, 18 I'd have been, I can't roughly remember. But this is sort of my dream, if you like, the cars that you wanted in my sort of pricing budget when I started out, because I was only buying stuff like under 500 quid when I first started, because I didn't really have any money. And if you got a KA, we were like, beautiful. KA and a Corsa B, they were like the cars to have, because I'd be buying the sort of previous shape Fiestas, you know, the ones on L-Reg, M-Reg, is it the Mark III Fiesta? Yeah, Mark III would have been one. I used to buy a lot of them, and occasionally you'd crop up on a Ford KA and it was like, wow, and then you'd be like, proper modern car. I couldn't really get the Mark IV Fiesta, that they were a bit sort of out of my price range when I first started. It'd be about a year or two later when I started buying them. But you could get the odd KA, and they said they were always good news. Everyone wanted them. The only real bugbearer of these cars was rust. I mean, drive-wise, they drive excellent. They were so simple, put together well, very modern shape actually at the time. You think this is in 1996 when this came out. It was quite a modern looking car, and the fact that it stayed in production for what, over 12 years is testament to how well it was sort of received by the public and how many people bought these. They were everywhere. They were like one of those iconic small cars, a bit like the Metro was in the 80s and early 90s. The KA sort of took over from it, and I suppose really up until about 2008 it had that crown. I suppose today you'd probably say the equivalent to this would be like an Igo or a 107 C1, just a small, reliable, cheap car that just does what it's supposed to do. Anyway, shooting off, it's pulling like a train. I always prefer these later engines. I used to drive obviously a lot of the older ones, the old Endurer, rocker engines used to call them, or pushrod engines, and you had to really work those engines. They weren't very powerful, they were very old-fashioned, but they did a job, and they were, you know, reliable to a point. But this later engine really sort of upped the game. It freshened the car up in 2002, early 2003, when they sort of facelifted this a little bit and improved a few bits on it. It was a massive difference having this engine in. So the engine's good. I'm going over a few little bumps in the road. We've got no noise on the suspension or anything like that. Steering's nice and sharp and crisp. We haven't got any issues there. They say the gear change is quite good. The clutch is nice as well, nice and soft. No real sort of hardness on the pedal or anything like that. It doesn't feel unrefined. The actual drive of it doesn't drive any different really to any sort of modern small car you'd buy. Let's just try the brakes. Perfect. No noises, no squeaks, no rumbling or anything like that, no juddering. And the handbrakes are working as well, which is always a bonus. I have to say this is pulling really well, driving fine, going over the bumps in the road and stuff, it's fine. There's no knocks, no bangs, no noises. It's doing exactly what it should do. It feels like a car that's only done 19,000 miles. Sadly, it doesn't look like a car that's done 19,000 miles, and that's what we've got to address in this car to make any money out of it. Now, in fairness, I could just trade this on. I know rucker guys who would buy this car in a heartbeat. I could easily make a couple £100 on it and move it on in the trade, but I don't want to. One, we haven't got much stock at the moment. Two, it's a cheapy car. It's going to fit in that budget quite nice. That sort of 1,500-ish quid mark, somewhere around there, I think. We'll break that down in a minute. But the point is, it's going to be a cheap car you could sell out to someone, and mechanically, you know it's going to be sound. They were really reliable, these cars. They never gave it an ounce of problems. I mean, to be honest with you, looking back, I can't really remember much what went wrong with these mechanically. The odd water pump, I think, actually, from memory, but it was very rare. And occasionally you would get the heater matrix. So under the bonnet, there's two pipes that go into the bulkhead where their sort of water feeds the radiators inside the car, the matrix. Sometimes there's a valve on there that can play up. You end up having the car freezing cold and you can't turn it on from hot to cold,
or you end up boiling hot. Basically, you can't put it cold either, so you'd be in the car in the summer and you'd be absolutely burning up because you can't get the heaters off. That was pretty much it, really. They weren't that bad. They were quite a mechanically sound car. Again, testament to the fact they were using really reliable old school parts. There was no nonsense in this, there was no modern technology, it was just all basic stuff, and it really just means less to go wrong. But unfortunately, these cars were let down by the bodywork, the structure of the vehicle. Fords of this era just were renowned for rust, and even this one with 19,000 miles on is still showing signs of corrosion in places. Now, it's had some accident damage as well, which is not helpful, but there's a bit of rust coming through in places, and it certainly needs improving, and I think we can do that. I think we can smarten this car up and make it look a presentable thing again. Now, 475 quid, I ain't getting worried about this car. I can't lose any money on it. It's a no-brainer. But we have got to be careful how much we put into it in order to get it into a reasonable condition for sale. We don't want to start blowing budget on it or going OTT on it. We've got to be realistic about what you're going to get back for this car. I think this is probably worth around the £1,500 mark. You could probably get more for it if it was a bit more neater. Now, the bumpers and stuff have got a few marks on them. The textured bumpers, they're not something that I'm going to start getting repaired. It's a nightmare to do that sort of stuff, to get it right. It just needs the basics doing. Sort that quarter out, get the car mopped up, and then see what we've got at the end of it. We'll have a presentable car, no doubt. And even if it's not perfect, it's certainly going to be better than what it currently is now, which is a bit shabby in places, let's be honest. But I think it can make a car, and I don't think we're going to spend much on it. I mean, I can't second guess what the paint's going to cost, but I can have a rough idea in my head that mechanically, with the paint and a few bits and bobs underneath, from memory, what go wrong with these, worst case, axle bushes are quite common on the back for MOTs, remember, and wishbone arms, but all these things are cheap to do. We're not really going to break the bank. So what's this KA going to cost us? Well, I can only guess what we're going to spend on it. It's a rough idea. It's all down to the paint. That's where the major issue is going to lie, trying to get it right, or best we can. The car stands us at, like I said, £475. I've got a target price in my head of 800 quid, so we can throw probably, the best part of £300 at this car, and probably 78% of that's going to be at the paint situation. Getting that quarter done, mop it up, get it back, see what it looks like. I'll then can sort the bumpers out, get them heated up and get them back to black, give it a valet and stuff, and then get underneath it, mechanically make it sound. To be honest with you, it's driving perfect, so I don't think we're going to spend much money underneath. We're going to make sure it's structurally sound, make sure we deal with any corrosion. We probably will find some corrosion or previous welding been done. We need to neaten it up and tidy it all up, make sure it's all solid, and then give it a bloody good coating of some rubber guard, just make it look nice underneath and make it protected, and time protect it a bit better for the future. But once we've done that, you know, if the car ends up costing us around the £800 mark, we've got a nice little profit in it. Not a world beater by any means, but if it's worth, 1,500 quid to someone, I think it's worth that all day long. You could argue maybe £2,000, but I don't think it's quite there for £2,000. It's just got a few little marks on it, which we're never going to get right, and we could end up spending far too much money to make it perfect, but not be any better off financially. You know, we don't want to make ourselves more work for nothing. I think it's a good, honest car that we can make presentable. If we sell it for 1,500 quidish mark, we've had a nice chunk of money out of it, and someone will get a really decent car at the end of it. With 19,000 miles on it, there's years of life left in this car. So that is the plan. It all relies really on what we've got when it comes back from paint. So I'm going to get this dropped off to paint, and we'll cover it in a part 2. So thank you for watching this one, guys. Please let me know your thoughts and comments on this Ford KA. Let me know your memories of them. If you own one, most people have. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe, guys. Make sure you check out our sponsor vehicle score as well to get your free car check. So thanks, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.